The bedtime hook, why marriage was never simple. Have you ever wondered why a marriage in medieval Europe could be valid, even if it was spoken only in whispers, without witnesses, and perhaps even across a garden fence? Tonight we will wander slowly into that world, where the rules of marriage were layered, strange, and often contradictory. Before we begin, dim the lights, adjust your pillow, let your breath grow steady. If you wish, leave a quiet comment with your city and time, joining others across distances who settle into this same evening rhythm. This journey will not hurry. It may carry you into sleep before the end, and that is entirely welcome. You sit in imagination, at the edge of a medieval village. The air is cool, carrying the faint smell of damp earth and wood smoke. The church bell has rung for vespers. Beyond the fields, the roofs of cottages press close, their thatch dark with the day's rain. Within, families talk of crops, of debts, and most quietly of marriages yet to be arranged. The myth says medieval marriage was simple. A man and woman fell in love, walked to the church, and spoke vows before a priest. The reality is slower, stranger. Consent mattered more than ceremony. Contracts bound more than feeling, and rules stretched from the pulpit to the king's court, down into the crowded cottages where neighbors whispered. Mini Arc 1, the weight of consent. The church taught that true marriage rested in the consent of the couple. That means 2 words spoken, I take you, could bind for life. No priest, no witness, not even a feast required. You picture it, 2 figures standing in the cold of a field, cloaks pulled close, hands clasped, their breath drifts in white clouds. They murmur words of present consent, binding themselves. Around them, the air smells of damp soil and frost. A crow flaps away, startled. Nothing else stirs, yet the church courts would accept this as marriage. Strange, yet true. Records from the time suggest countless disputes arose from such secret vows. Was it spoken? Did both agree? Could someone prove it? Brother Clement, the monk who lives near your imagined village, mutters canon law like scripture. Consent makes marriage, he insists. His voice is flat, certain, almost drowsy. He has repeated it so many times, it has become more chant than teaching. A gentle dilemma rests here. Is marriage stronger with words spoken quietly in the field, or with bells, priest, and witnesses in the church? Mini Arc 2, the pull of families. You shift your seat at the wooden bench of a cottage. The smell of stew lingers, onions, cabbage, smoke. A father sits across, muttering of dowries, of kin, of alliances. Parents cared deeply. For marriage moved property, not just hearts. The myth says young couples chose freely. The reality, many waited for parental hand, for guardians' decision. Marriages bound estates, fields, debts, and bloodlines. Fortunata, the lucky one, leans in, shawl drawn tight, eyes sparkling with mischief. She has been widowed once, betrothed twice, and insists rules bend for her. Families tie knots tighter than priests, she whispers, ladle in hand, and they knot them where they please. A gentle dilemma. Do you follow your own choice, or bow to the hand that feeds and clothes you? Most bowed, yet some whispered vows in corners, weaving a secret knot. Mini Arc 3, the myth of love matches. Love, in stories, gleams bright. The troubadour sings of knights and ladies, of stolen glances, and secret trysts. The myth insists marriage followed love's spark. The reality, love often followed marriage, if it came at all. You walk past the manor hall, torches gutter in the wind. Inside, matches are discussed over parchment, seals and coins. No music plays, only the scratch of quills and the sigh of clerks. Rat-face Hugo leans close, grin sharp. I know a cousin who married for love, he says, and lost his field because of it. He chuckles, the sound like boots on gravel. Love was not forbidden, it simply was not the rule. Mini Arc 4, the sound of bands. In many villages, weddings began with bands. Public announcements read aloud in church. 3 Sundays in a row, the priest declared who intended to wed. Anyone could speak objections. You sit in the nave. The air smells of incense, faint and sharp. Candles flicker against stone walls. The priest's voice is low, echoing. Thomas, son of Henry, to wed Alice, daughter of William. Whispers stir. Neighbors recall debts, kinship ties, whispers of promises elsewhere. The myth says weddings were private affairs. The reality, the whole village had a voice. Brother Clement mutters from his stall. Bands cleanse secrets. He repeats it like a weary chant. A dilemma. Announce and risk gossip, or keep silent and risk annulment later. Mini Arc 5, the church calendar. Even time itself carried rules. Weddings forbidden in Lent, in Advent, during fasting. The myth says weddings could happen any day. The reality, large swathes of the year stood closed. You imagine couples waiting, weeks dragging slowly. Winter damp clings to walls, smoke lingers heavy in rafters. A rooster crows in the dark, though dawn has not yet come. A bride sighs by the hearth, gown folded and ready, unable to wear it until bells allow. Fortunata mutters, they say patience is a virtue. It feels more like mildew on the wall. Mini Arc 6, the small problem of proof. Without paper, without rings, without priests required, how did one prove marriage? Disputes filled courts. Was it spoken in jest, or in truth? Did both agree? Was there witness? You hear the echo of such cases. Couples arguing before a bishop, neighbors dragged to testify, letters read aloud, parchments smudged. Rat-face Hugo smirks, whispering, I know a cousin who denied his words, and spent 2 years proving them. A gentle dilemma. Is it safer to wed quietly now, or wait for formality that proves it later? Mini Arc 7 historical echoes. Records from medieval Europe confirm this tangled system. Church logs brim with disputes. Royal charters mention dowries. Letters whisper of secret vows. Some scholars believe the strangeness lay not in rarity, but in normality. Everyone knew someone whose marriage walked the edge of rule and exception. Archaeologists find little trace. Rings, tokens, wax seals. The true remains are words, faded on parchment. You lean back, candle low, shadows long across the walls. Around you the voices of Brother Clement, Fortunata, and rat-face Hugo fade into murmurs. Their quirks remain, Clement muttering law, Fortunata twisting rules, Hugo grinning at cousins unseen. The myth of simple medieval marriage dissolves. The reality rests in knots of law, family, consent and time. Strange, heavy and slow, the fire crackles softly as the night grows colder, and the village exhales into rest. The church decides who can wed. The church bell tolls again, slow and steady, carrying over fields and stone walls. Its sound gathers the village, not only for prayers but for guidance. Marriage in this time is not simply the union of two people. It is a matter bound by rules, measured by law, watched by priests, and sometimes untangled years later by court. The myth says marriage was private, a promise between two hearts. The reality, the church stood watchful, deciding who could wed, when they could wed, and whether their union held at all. Without its blessing, consent alone might bind two, but it could just as easily unravel before judges who weighed kinship, custom and sin. You walk toward the church. The air is cool, smelling of damp stone and wax. The door creaks as you push it, hinges inside. The nave stretches in shadow, candles guttering, incense still sharp from vespers. Brother Clement stands by the lectern, fingers tracing lines of canon law on parchment. His lips move in quiet mutters, the rhythm flat and steady. 7 degrees, consanguinity, impediments. He repeats them like prayer. Mini Arc 1, the rule of kinship. The first rule the church weighed heavily was blood. Two who shared kin within 7 degrees were forbidden. Today the system feels impossibly strict. 7th cousins barred, distant lines entangled. The myth says only close kin, siblings, parents, uncles, were forbidden. The reality, the church's net cast wide, catching relations far removed. You imagine a village couple. They hold hands shyly at the well, water rippling, rope groaning as bucket rises. Their breath mingles in cool morning air, yet a priest might declare them too close, perhaps linked by a great-great-grandparent neither remembered. Step by step the test was made. Trace the man's father's line, one branch at a time. Trace the woman's mother's line, counting generations. Mark where the two lines meet. Measure the distance 1st, 2nd, 3rd or 7th degree. If too near, forbid the match. Brother Clement mutters, kinship breeds sin, distance breeds peace. His eyes droop half closed as though the rule itself lulls him into drowsy certainty. A gentle dilemma appears. Do you obey the priest's decision and abandon affection, or do you whisper vows anyway, risking annulment years later? Fortunata the lucky one chuckles, adjusting her shawl. I married a cousin once, or twice. The priest never found out. Mini Arc 2, affinity and spiritual kin. Not only blood but bonds of marriage or godparenthood. Barred couples. If a man married a widow, he could not wed her sister later. If one was godparent to another, union was blocked. The myth says godparent ties ended at baptism. The reality, they lingered, heavy, sometimes for life, You picture a baptism. The font smells faintly of water and incense. A child squirms, water dripping down soft cheeks. A man places a hand on the child's head, becoming godfather. Years later he looks at the child's aunt with affection, but the church frowns. Spiritual kinship forbids it. Rat-face Hugo grins from the back pew. I know a cousin who ignored that. Cost him 3 trips to the bishop. He chuckles, the sound like rats scratching at grains. A gentle dilemma. Honor the church's wide net of spiritual kin, or argue that love should matter more than baptismal bonds. Mini-Arc 3. Impediments hidden and revealed. Canon law listed many impediments. Age, vows of chastity, prior contracts, even impotence. Each could nullify a union. The myth says the priest simply asked 2 questions and blessed the couple. The reality, questions were many, answers tangled. Brother Clement recites them slowly, like a litany. Are you of age? Are you free of prior promise? Are you not already wed? Are you not bound to the church? Are you not kin? Are you willing, freely, without coercion? The questions feel endless, each one a barrier, each one another place to stumble. Fortunata mutters, too many questions spoil the feast. She laughs, but her eyes glint knowingly. Mini-Arc 4. Rules written and rewritten. Church councils met often, redefining marriage rules. What was lawful one century might be barred the next. The myth says rules were fixed. The reality, they shifted, layered, often confusing. You imagine parchment rustling in a dim chamber. Bishops gathered by candlelight. Wax drips down, smoke curls in the air. They debate quietly, measuring kinship charts, adjusting forbidden lines. Step by step piles. Council sets new boundaries. Villagers struggle to understand. Disputes rise when old unions conflict with new rules. Courts fill with appeals, each parchment thicker than the last. Brother Clement sighs, eyes drooping. Law ferments like ale. It changes flavor, still it must be swallowed. Mini-Arc 5. The public reading of bans. Once again bans enter the story. They were the church's net, cast to catch secrets. For 3 Sundays names spoken aloud. If kinship, affinity or contract forbade, neighbors might cry out. You sit in the church again, stone cold beneath you, incense heavy. The priest's voice echoes, John, son of Robert, to wed Margaret, daughter of Thomas. A whisper passes down the pews, but she is his god sister, but he once pledged another. Rat-face Hugo leans in, grinning. I know a cousin whose bans were shouted down. He married in secret instead. A dilemma. Announce fully, risk gossip, or hide vows, risk annulment. Both choices hold quiet weight. Mini-Arc 6. Historical echoes. Records preserve these struggles. Canon lawyers wrote long commentaries, charting kinship like tangled trees. Court rolls list cases annulled for consanguinity. Chronicles complain of couples too eager, priests too lenient, or neighbors too sharp-tongued. Some scholars believe one reason marriage rules grew so complex was control. The church held authority, deciding who could marry, binding society more tightly to altar and law. Archaeologists find little, only scratched notes, kinship diagrams, fragments of parchment, yet behind them whole lives reshaped. Mini-Arc 7. A quiet case study. Imagine one couple, Alice and John. They whisper vows behind a barn, straw sweet in the air, the sound of cattle shifting nearby. Later their banns are. A neighbor recalls Alice is kin to John in the forbidden degree. Their case goes to court. In the bishop's hall, the air smells of wax and damp wool. Papers rustle, ink stains fingers. Brother Clement reads law aloud, voice steady. Alice weeps softly. John insists they are bound. The bishop rules annulment, their whispered vows undone by kinship long forgotten. The myth says love decided. The reality, canon law. Mini-Arc 8. Rules of the church court. Brother Clement closes his book muttering once more, but rat-face Hugo steals a glance at the parchment he carries. Written in tight hand are rules, structured like steps. Rules of church marriage. Kinship forbids, even distant. Spiritual ties weigh as blood. Prior promises cancel new vows. Age matters. Boys under 14, girls under 12 cannot wed. Impotence forbids, though proof is whispered, never shouted. Annulment unravels knots tied too quickly. Fortunata chuckles, shaking her head. Rules enough to tie us all in knots. Mini-Arc 9. A gentle dilemma. You imagine yourself in this time. The candle burns low. A hand you wish to clasp is near. Yet the priest's questions linger. Are you kin? Did you promise another? Are you of age? Do you dare risk secret words? The dilemma is soft, not thunderous. Marry now and risk annulment. Or wait, and risk patience fading. Neither choice is simple, both abound in law and in silence. Miniac 10. Sleepy reflection. The church grows still. Brother Clement closes his book. Fortunata tucks her shawl. Rat-face Hugo grins, whispering of cousins, who broke every rule. Candles gutter, wax pools on stone. The air smells faintly of smoke and incense. The myth of simple marriage, private and free, dissolves. The reality rests in rules recited slowly, kinship charts stretching wide, banns echoing through nave, and courts binding lives like knots in rope. You lean back against the pew, the cold stone presses your shoulder, the bell tolls once more, low and steady. The candles dim, the parchment closes, and the church exhales into rest. Betrothal before marriage. The day is cool and grey, a thin mist clings to the fields beyond the village, and the sound of church bells fades into distance. You find yourself not at a wedding feast, nor at a church altar, but in the quieter place before the betrothal. In medieval Europe the path to marriage began not with vows beneath a priest's blessing, but often with agreements whispered, contracts sealed, or hands clasped in promise. The myth says betrothal was casual, little more than engagement as we know it now, a polite announcement, easily broken. The reality, betrothal could bind as strongly as marriage itself. Courts weighed it seriously, families watched it carefully. Sometimes people lived betrothed yet never wed, trapped in promises that felt like half marriage, half burden. The cottage where today's scene unfolds smells of damp wool and stewing cabbage. Smoke curls upward through the thatch. A father sits at the table, his daughter beside him, her shawl drawn tight. Across from them sits the would-be groom, fidgeting, his boots leaving damp marks on the packed floor. A clerk holds a quill, ready to note what is said. The betrothal is not yet spoken, but the air hums with its weight. Miniac 1. The power of words. Betrothal came in two forms: verba de futuro, words of future promise, I will take you as wife, and verba de presenti, words of present consent, I take you as wife now. The first was betrothal, the second true marriage. Yet courts often blurred them. If a couple said I will marry you, and then consummated the promise, the church could declare them bound already. Step by step the ritual of betrothal might go. The families gather in a cottage or hall. The couple stands, hands clasped, eyes lowered. Words are spoken, I will take you as husband, I will take you as wife. Tokens exchanged, a ring, a coin, sometimes bread and wine. Neighbors witness quietly, murmuring approval or suspicion. The air smells of wax and wool. The sound of quills scratching on parchment mixes with the steady crackle of the hearth. Fortunata, the lucky one, leans near the door, whispering that she was once betrothed 3 times before her first husband even died. Promises, she says, are like clay, they can harden, or crumble. Miniac 2. Contracts and coins. The myth imagines betrothal as personal choice. The reality, it was often transaction. Fathers bargained, guardians counted coins, dowries promised, dower rights secured. A betrothal without property agreement was like a barrel without hoops. It might collapse under pressure. You picture a parchment rolled across the table. The clerk smooths it, ink drying slowly. It lists fields, rents, lives, each line a condition. If the bride dies before marriage, her dowry returns. If the groom breaks contract, payment owed. Rat-face Hugo grins, leaning close. I know a cousin who betrothed himself for a cow, then tried to marry another for 2 sheep. He laughs, shaking his head. The story may be half jest, but such disputes filled records. A dilemma emerges. Should the bride's father demand more coin, risking delay, or accept less, ensuring union? Either choice carries quiet consequence. Miniac 3. Tokens and rituals. Tokens, sealed promises. Sometimes a ring, plain bronze. Sometimes a knife, its hilt wrapped in cloth. Sometimes bread broken, ale shared, salt sprinkled. You imagine a small table, a loaf cut in half, shared between betrothed. A cup of ale sipped, passed hand to hand. A coin pressed into palm, warm from touch. A kiss, brief, dry, more contract than affection. The cottage smells of yeast and malt. The loaf crumbles softly. The ale tastes flat but steady. Teacup Tom polishes a cup nearby, nodding solemnly. A polished cup makes a better promise, he insists, though no one listens. Miniac 4. Rules of betrothal. Brother Clement, parchment in hand, recites rules like scripture. Rules of betrothal. Gifts exchanged, return if union fails. Consummation after future promise creates marriage. A consent of families strengthens the bond. Witnesses ensure proof.
though two alone may suffice. Breaking betrothal without cause incurs penance. Betrothal should be written when possible, though spoken suffices. His voice is flat, steady, almost sleepy. Fortunata yawns, muttering that rules make poor lullabies, though she drifts half into doze as he drones on.
Mini-arc 5. Myth versus reality of freedom. The myth paints betrothal as romantic. A knight promising his lady, a maiden promising her swain. The reality, many promises made under pressure, guardians insisting, fathers arranging. A girl of 12 could be betrothed, binding her future to a man she barely knew. You imagine her standing by the hearth, shawl slipping, eyes lowered. She hears promises spoken around her, her name written in ink, yet her voice unheard. Later courts might weigh whether she consented, but by then the promise had shaped her life. Rat-face Hugo shakes his head, grinning. I know a cousin betrothed at 10, grew up before the marriage came. By then he'd forgotten the girl's name. Mini-arc 6. Betrothal. Feasts. Not all was somber. Some betrothals marked with feasts. Ale, bread, meat, if fortune allowed. Guests laughed, sang, toasted the future, yet always beneath cheer lay caution. Betrothal was not yet wedding, a promise half bound. The hall smells of roasted mutton, smoke thick against rafters, cups clink, a fiddler scrapes out a tune. Fortunata laughs loudly, declaring she danced more at her betrothal feast than her wedding. Brother Clement frowns, muttering that feasts invite sin. Teacup Tom polishes his mug, smiling faintly, as though shine itself joins celebration. Mini-arc 7. Disputes and courts. Betrothal led often to disputes. One party claimed promise, the other denied. Courts listened to witnesses, neighbors, servants, even children who overheard. Words spoken in barns, fields, kitchens, all could bind. You sit in a bishop's hall, the smell of wax and damp wool presses close. Witnesses murmur, recalling who said what. The clerk scratches with quill, ink pooling in grooves. A woman insists, he took my hand by the well. He said, I will marry ye. The man shakes his head. I spoke in jest. The court listens, weighs, decides. Brother Clement mutters, jest binds if followed by deed. His voice, flat as ever, seals their fate. Mini-arc 8. A gentle dilemma. Imagine yourself in that time. You are asked, would you promise now, binding your future, or wait uncertain, if the promise might slip away? The dilemma is quiet. Security in betrothal, or freedom without it. Both paths uncertain, both head. Mini-arc 9. Historical echoes. Records from medieval courts brim with betrothal disputes. Rolls mention broken promises, suits for return of gifts, annulments of unions consummated too early. Letters describe families bargaining dowries months before wedding. Chronicles mock knights who pledged too freely, then regretted. Some scholars believe betrothal carried as much cultural weight as marriage itself. In many ways it was the first marriage, the shadow of the vow yet to come. Archaeologists find tokens, bronze rings, knives, coins buried in fields. Each may have sealed a promise, now lost to earth. Mini-arc 10. Closing reflection. The fire in the cottage burns low. The parchment curls faintly in heat. Families sigh. Promises made. Tokens exchanged. Brother Clement dozes. Rules still muttered under breath. Fortunata hums softly, remembering her own promises. Rat-face Hugo grins, certain of cousins who broke every vow. Teacup Tom polishes until his cup gleams in firelight. The myth of betrothal, as light engagement dissolves, the reality rests in contracts, coins, feasts, and disputes. Betrothal bound strongly, shaping lives before marriage even began. The hearth sighs, the quill rests, and the cottage exhales into quiet. Promises linger in the air, heavy as smoke, fragile as wax. The fire hums softly, as the night grows colder, and the village exhales into rest. Marriage by words alone. The rain has stopped, though the air is still heavy with damp. The roofs drip steadily, drops pattering into puddles that mirror grey sky. The church bell has rung, yet no priest stands nearby. Instead, two figures meet in the shadow of a low stone wall. Voices lowered, hands clasped. Their words are plain, their tone steady. I take you as husband, I take you as wife. No feast, no crowd, no blessing. And yet, by the rule of the church, their words alone bind. The myth says a wedding always required bells, priests, and witnesses. The reality in medieval Europe, Marriage could be made valid by mutual consent alone. Verba de presenti, words of present agreement, were enough. A whisper in the field could weigh the same as vows before an altar. You walk closer, in imagination. The earth smells of wet grass. The stone wall is cold beneath your hand. The couple's breath mingles, pale clouds rising in the Their words carry more weight than the dripping roof of the church nearby. Miniarch 1. The power of consent. Consent was the cornerstone. Canon lawyers repeated it endlessly. If two gave themselves to each other in present words, the knot was tied. Priests were recommended, but not required. Step by step, the ritual of words alone. Two stand together, no one else required. They clasp hands, or simply look into each other's eyes. They speak, I take you. The words bind, silently recorded in heaven, if not on earth. Life shifts, from single to married, with nothing more than air-carrying words. Brother Clement mutters from a nearby bench, eyes half closed. Consent is the marrow of marriage. All else is bark around the tree. His voice is steady, flat, drowsy. A quiet dilemma forms. Speak vows now, binding without witness, or wait for ceremony that proves them. Miniarch 2. The fence and the field. Tales spread of marriages spoken over fences, in barns, on roads. A man clasped a woman's hand while leaning across a hedge. Another whispered vows in a sheepfold, sheep bleating softly nearby. Rat-face Hugo grins, eyes sharp. I know a cousin who married over a fence. The neighbor's cow was witness. He chuckles, the sound like grain spilling from a torn sack. The myth says such stories were jokes. The reality, court records confirm them. Marriages contracted in barns, gardens, even taverns. Later disputed, later upheld. You imagine one such scene. The smell of manure heavy, hay scratching your skin. A single candle stub burning in the dark. A woman whispers, I take you now. A man answers the same. The sound of cattle shifts behind them. Their vows weigh more than the straw beneath their feet. Miniarch 3. The problem of proof. Without witnesses, without priests, proof became fragile. Later disputes filled courts. One said, we spoke the vows. The other denied. Neighbors testified, we saw them clasp hands, or we only heard laughter. Step by step the court examined. Were words spoken in jest? Was there intention or only play? Was consummation added after? Were witnesses present, even unwilling ones? Did tokens or gifts pass hands? Brother Clement sighs, repeating, words weigh when met. Jests bind when followed by deed. Fortunata the lucky one shakes her head. I once spoke promises by firelight. The man swore it meant marriage. I swore it meant nothing. The court believed him. Lucky, they called me. I call it new. Miniarch 4. Rules of verba de presenti. On a scrap of parchment, rules are written, neat hand curling into Latin script. Brother Clement reads them aloud, monotone. Rules of marriage by words alone. Words must be present tense. I take you now. Future tense binds less, unless consummated. Witnesses recommended, not required. Consent must be free, not forced. Intention matters. Jest with deed binds. Annulment possible only with proof of impediment. Priest's blessing completes but does not create. Teacup Tom polishes his mug in the corner, nodding. Words polish lives more than cups, he mutters. No one answers, but his cup gleams. Miniarch 5. The myth of ceremony. The myth imagines all medieval marriages, surrounded by feast, song, blessed. The reality, many slipped quietly, almost invisibly, from single to married. No feast, no priest, only words. You imagine a narrow lane. The ground smells of mud, cartwheels leaving ruts. A couple pauses, exchanges vows, then continues walking. Behind them nothing has changed. Ahead, everything has shifted. Rat-face Hugo whispers, I know a cousin who wed in a tavern corner. The ale jug was witness. Agnes passing with her ladle scoffs. At least the ale was strong enough to remember. Miniarch 6. Disputes in court. Courts struggled with these word marriages. Neighbors dragged in, questioned. Did they hear vows? Did they see clasped hands? Was there gift, kiss, or bed afterward? You sit in a bishop's chamber. The smell of ink is sharp, wax dripping onto wooden table. Witnesses shuffle, cloaks damp from rain. One says, they spoke in laughter. Another, I saw hands clasp. The clerk scratches recording. The judge sighs. Brother Clement recites law. Words spoken, if meant by. The couple listens, weary. Their fate decided by what neighbors half heard years ago. Miniarch 7. A gentle dilemma. You imagine yourself in such a place. The hearth is low, the shadows long. A hand you trust is near. Do you whisper vows now, making marriage by words alone? Or do you wait for the church, risking delay, risking family's disapproval? The dilemma rests soft: act in the moment, or wait for the formality. Both paths heavy, both uncertain. Many Arc 8. Historical echoes. Records preserve countless cases. One woman claimed vows, whispered at night, bound her to a man. He denied, saying it was play. The court sided with her, binding him for life. Another man declared he married in secret, yet later sought annulment, citing kinship. Parchments brim with these disputes, lives turned by whispers. Some scholars believe this rule, marriage by words alone, was both liberating and dangerous. It freed couples from priests, but trapped them in promises made rashly. Archaeologists find little trace rings, coins, fragments, but the true relics are words caught in records, still binding across centuries. Many Arc 9. Closing reflection. The rain begins again, tapping faintly on stone roof. The couple in the field steps apart, bound though no one else knows. Brother Clement closes his book, muttering still. Fortunata yawns, remembering her own whispered vow. Rat-face Hugo grins, recounting cousins who wed over fences, in barns, in taverns. Teacup Tom polishes his cup, the reflection of candlelight steady in its curve. The myth of marriage always needing church and ceremony. The reality rests in words alone, whispered across hedges, spoken in fields, binding more tightly than chains. The roof drips, the candle dims, and the night exhales into rest. The fire crackles softly, as the rain falls steady, and the village drifts again into uneasy sleep. The hand of parents and guardians. The sun climbs weakly through a pale sky. The air is damp, carrying the smell of wet straw and chimney smoke. In the village, a girl sweeps her threshold, her shawl wrapped tightly. She pauses when she hears voices inside. Her father and a man she does not know well. They sit at the table, parchment spread, cups steaming. She does not sit with them, she only listens. The myth says medieval young people freely chose whom they loved, slipping to church or field and speaking vows. The reality: many marriages were guided, sometimes forced by the hands of parents, guardians, and lords. Consent still mattered in law, but pressure carried more weight than parchment. A father's nod, a mother's sigh, a guardian's seal. These were the invisible hands that shaped most marriages. You enter the cottage, the smell of stewed cabbage lingers. A dog sleeps by the hearth, twitching in its dream. The father's voice is calm but firm, the stranger's softer wheedle. The girl continues sweeping, her broom scratching the floor in slow rhythm. Fortunata, the lucky one, sits by the door, eyes bright, shawl wrapped like armor. She whispers, "Families tie knots tighter than priests." I learned that with every promise made for many Arc 1. Guardianship. When a father died, a child became a ward. Guardians, often distant relatives or lords, gained the right to arrange marriages. The myth says orphans were left free. The reality: their futures were often bought, sold, or bargained. You imagine a lord's hall. The air smells of tallow candles and wet dogs. A girl stands silently as men argue. Her guardian nods toward parchment, sealing her to a man she has never met. She cannot refuse, though the law will later insist consent was required. Brother Clement mutters, near the hearth, "Guardianship binds property, not affection." His voice is flat, worn, drowsy. He does not look up from his book of law. A gentle dilemma forms. Should the guardian wait until the ward grows, or marry her quickly, securing alliance? Most chose quickly. Time was risk. Many Arc 2. Parental bargains. Even without guardianship, parents bargained for children. Dowries promised, dower rights secured, alliances formed. The myth imagines romantic choice. The reality: families weighed fields, livestock, and debts. Step by step, a bargain unfolds. Father and suitor sit across table, cups of ale between them. Parchment spread, clerk scratching notes. Dowry named, coin, land, linens, or livestock. Dower promised in return, security for widowhood. Hands clasped, seal pressed, deal struck. The girl continues sweeping, her broom scratching rhythm. She hears her name written, her future arranged. Rat-face Hugo leans in, grins sly. "I know a cousin who was traded for 2 cows, best cows the family ever had." He chuckles, as though this is comfort. Many Arc 3. Dowries and dower rights. The dowry: money, or goods brought by bride. The dower: a portion promised for her if widowed. Parents calculated carefully. The myth says dowries were luxuries. The reality: they were survived. Without dowry, few married.
Without dower, widows starved. You picture a chest, linens folded, silver coins stacked, candlesticks polished. A father closes it, sighing. A suitor opens his own parchment, promising in return a dower of land. Fortunata mutters, "My dower was 2 acres and a cow. I never saw either. Lucky," they said. "I called it hunger." Miniac 4, Rules of Parental Consent. Brother Clement recites, voice slow as if half asleep, rules of parental consent. Guardians may bind wards, yet courts hear disputes later. Dowries promised must be fulfilled. Dowers pledged must be secured. Age matters, children too young cannot truly consent. Coercion invalidates in law, though rarely in practice. Families bind strongest where property lies. Teacup Tom polishes his mug at the table's edge. Consent polished thin by pressure still shines faint, he mutters. The mug gleams. The girl keeps sweeping. Miniac 5, The Myth of Obedience. The myth imagines children always obedient. The reality, some resisted, eloped, whispered vows in secret. Court rolls brim with cases of sons and daughters defying parents. You imagine a boy and girl meeting at dusk. The air smells of damp earth. A cow lowing nearby. They clasp hands, whisper vows, binding themselves without family's blessing. Days later, parents rage. Guardians petition courts. The couple insists consent makes marriage. Sometimes courts sided with them. Ratface Hugo smirks. I know a cousin who defied his father, ended up with no land, but plenty of trouble. He chuckles, shaking his head. Miniac 6, Feasts and family pressure. Some betrothals marked with feasts. Bread broken, ale poured, neighbors summoned. Families displayed wealth, sealing bargain in public. For children, pressure grew heavy. Could they refuse with dozens watching? Bread in hand, ale at lips. The hall smells of roasted meat, smoke heavy on beams. Laughter rolls, cups clink. The bride-to-be sits silent, eyes lowered. Her name is called, her hand pressed. The bargain made before all. Fortunata laughs loudly. At my betrothal feast, they asked if I agreed. I nodded, because the bread was already in my mouth. Miniac 7, Historical Echoes. Records confirm parental and guardian power. Royal charters list marriages arranged for alliances. City accounts detail dowries measured in coin, linens, silver. Church courts record disputes. Young women insisting coercion, parents denying. Letters survive. Fathers instructing sons, marry this one, not that one. Some scholars believe love was not absent, only secondary. Affection could grow, but property came first. The hand of parents weighed heavier than hearts. Miniac 8, A Gentle Dilemma. You imagine yourself in this time. The hearth glows. Your father sits across from a suitor, name spoken, dowry measured. You feel pressure of eyes, weight of silence. Do you speak, consent, obey, or do you refuse, risking anger, risking hunger, risking loss of home? The dilemma is soft but heavy. Most consented, few resisted. Miniac 9, Fortunata's story. Fortunata, the lucky one, lifts her shawl tighter, eyes glinting. My first husband was chosen for land, my second for coin, my third for debt forgiven. They called me lucky, because I lived through all, but luck is only another word for survival. Her laugh is sharp though tired. She sips from Tom's polished mug without asking. He sighs, but says nothing. Miniac 10, Closing Reflection. The girl's broom stops. Her father seals the parchment. Her suitor smiles faintly. Her future is bound, not by her own hand, but by theirs. Brother Clement closes his book, muttering still. Ratface Hugo grins, already planning a story of cousins. Fortunata hums softly, remembering bargains made. Teacup Tom polishes his mug again, shines steady in candlelight. The myth of free choice dissolved. The reality rests in parental bargains, guardian seals, dowries measured, dower rights promised. The hand of parents shaped unions more than the hands of lovers. The hearth hums, the parchment calls, and the cottage exhales into quiet. Promises linger like smoke in rafters, heavy, slow and binding. The fire flickers softly as the night grows colder, and the village drifts again into rest. Dowries, dower rights, and economics of vows. The hearth burns low, though the coals glow faintly red. Outside, the air carries the sharp scent of frost, and a dog barks somewhere in the dark. Inside the hall, families gather around a table, not for feast, not for song, but for number. Marriage, in this time, is not only affection or consent, it is economy, sealed in coin, fields, and chests of linen. The myth says medieval marriages were purely matters of the heart, that young couples chose freely, guided by affection. The reality, wealth and survival were bound in every vow. A marriage without dowry was like a door without hinge, a barrel without hoop. It might exist but poorly. You sit at the table, the smell of ink and wax rises as the clerk dips his quill, the father folds his arms, the groom fidgets with his sleeve, the bride-to-be looks down at her lap. A chest rests at the edge of the room, its iron lock cold, its contents heavier than any words spoken tonight.
Mini-arc 1. The dowry chest. The dowry was the property a bride brought into marriage. It might be coin, land, cattle, linens, candlesticks, or even obligations of service. Without it, a suitor might never come. Step by step, the chest is prepared. The family gathers linens, spun and embroidered by hand, silver coins counted, dull under candlelight. A candlestick polished, gleaming faintly, keys tied to ribbon, locked chest carried, chest placed at the table, both families staring at it, as though it breathes. The chest smells of cedar and damp cloth. Its iron bands creak faintly. Rat-face Hugo leans closer, whispering, "I know a cousin whose chest was filled with nothing but onions." Still, he called it dowry. He grins, though no one else laughs. Mini-arc 2, the dower promise. If dowry was what the bride brought, dower was what the groom promised in return. Property, or income, she would hold if widowed. It was her protection against hunger. The myth imagines widows helpless. The reality, dower, when honored, gave them strength. You picture the groom's parchment, lines written in careful Latin, 2 acres of field, 1 house, rights to half the orchard. The ink smudges faintly, wax seal pressed. Fortunata, the lucky one, adjusts her shawl, eyes narrowing. "My dower was 2 acres and a cow. I never saw either." He promised on parchment. Parchment burns faster than wood. Brother Clement mutters, voice slow, "Dower is widow's shield." But a shield made of parchment breaks in rain. His tone is flat, sleep-inducing. Mini-arc 3. Myth versus reality of generosity. The myth paints dowries as lavish, golden chests, filled endlessly. The reality, many were modest. A few linens, some livestock, perhaps a small purse of coins. Even wealthy families sometimes quarreled, promising more than they could give. The air smells of wax and damp wool. The clerk frowns, waiting for sums to be agreed. A father clears his throat. 2 cows, 4 linens, 1 silver spoon. The groom nods reluctantly. Rat-face Hugo snickers. "I know a cousin who married for a single goose. The goose died before the wedding feast." He laughs at his own tale. The others sigh. Mini-arc 4. Rules of the chest and seal. Brother Clement clears his throat, reading from parchment. Rules of dowry and dower. Dowry given at wedding, or promised in contract. Dower promised by groom, secured in property or coin. Widow claims dower upon husband's death. Failure to provide is sin and breach. Gifts beyond dowry not binding unless written. Land counts heavier than goods, goods heavier than words. Witnesses ensure memory when paper fades. His voice drones like the creak of floorboards. Fortunata yawns, muttering, "Rules protect men more than women." Mini-arc 5. The bride's quiet role. The bride often sat silent as dowry bargained, her presence required, her voice less so. The myth imagines her central. The reality, she watched as others haggled. You picture her hands folded in lap, cloth rough beneath her palm. Her dowry chest sits within reach, yet not hers to control. The parchment rustles as men argue coin. Teacup Tom polishes his cup, sighing. A cup polished without asking still shines. A bride's silence does the same. His words fall softly, though the bride does not smile. Mini-arc 6. Feasts of display. When dowry was large, families displayed it. Tables spread with linens, coins stacked, candlesticks gleaming. Guests admired, whispered, judged. The myth says feasts only for love. The reality, many for property. The hall smells of roasted meat, candles burning thick. Neighbors peer, counting in silence. A clerk notes each piece. Fortunata mutters, "They counted my linens before they counted me." She sips from Tom's polished mug without asking. Mini-arc 7. Gentle dilemma. You imagine yourself in that cottage. A father offers coin. The groom demands land. The clerk waits. The bride sits silent. Do you press for more, ensuring security, or agree quickly, securing you? The dilemma is quiet. Bargain too hard, risk losing the suitor. Bargain too little, risk widowhood without protection. Court rolls list widows suing for unpaid dower. Chronicles mock fathers who overpromised. Some scholars believe dowry and dower were the true spine of medieval marriage. Without them, few unions survived scrutiny. With them, even fragile unions endure. Archaeologists uncover chests, keys, candlesticks, fragments of linens, each faint echo of bargains once binding. Miniac 9. Rat-face Hugo's story. Hugo leans closer, grin sharp. I know a cousin who sued for his wife's dowry. He claimed it was 2 sheep. Her father claimed 1. The court gave him none. He laughs, shaking his head. Brother Clement sighs, muttering. Property divides more than hearts. His eyelids droop, his voice soothing. Miniac 10. Closing reflection. The candles burn low, the parchment cools, seal. The chest waits, iron lock gleaming faintly. The bride still sits silent. The groom nods, half relieved, half dissatisfied. Fortunato adjusts her shawl, whispering. Property ties tighter than vows. Teacup Tom polishes his cup again, shine catching firelight. Rat-face Hugo grins, certain of cousins who cheated both dowry and dower. Brother Clement mutters still, his law-like chant. The myth of marriage as pure affection dissolves. The reality rests in dowries bargained, dower promised, property counted. The chest creaks, the parchment rests, and the hall exhales into stillness. Numbers drift like smoke, promises heavier than iron lock. The fire hums quietly as the night grows colder, and the village drifts into rest. Forbidden times and places. The bells toll again, their sound rolling across the fields like mist. The village gathers for mass, but not for wedding. It is Lent, a time of fasting and silence, and the church forbids marriage now. No rings, no feasts, no vows spoken. The air smells faintly of ashes and damp wool. Families sit in pews, quiet, thinking not of today's unions but of those delayed. The myth says weddings could be held any day, in any place, whenever 2 wished to wed. The reality, long stretches of the year were closed, entire seasons forbidden, certain places barred. Couples waited, sometimes months, sometimes longer, until bells and calendar allowed. You sit in the nave. The candles flicker faintly, wax dripping onto stone. Brother Clement mutters from his stall, eyes half shut, voice steady. No weddings in Lent, no weddings in Advent, no weddings at night, no weddings at night, no weddings in cemeteries. He repeats these rules as though they are song. His tone is calm, lulling, like wind against shutters. Miniac 1. The calendar of silence. The church sets seasons when marriage must wait. Lent, the 40 days before Easter. Advent, the weeks before Christmas. Days of fasting, days of mourning, days not for joy. Step by step, the waiting unfolds. A couple speaks vows of intent in winter. They prepare chest and dowry. They wait through Advent, candles burning low. They wait again through Lent, bells tolling long. Only when Easter bells ring, may the wedding come. The waiting smells of damp walls and musty straw. The bride-to-be sighs at her loom, weaving linen, each thread a day gone. Fortunata the lucky one whispers, patience is no virtue, it is mildew on the walls. She pulls her shawl tight. Miniac 2. The myth of moonlight weddings. Tales tell of weddings at midnight, torches glowing, vows whispered under stars. The myth imagines romance beneath the moon. The reality, the church forbade weddings at night. They must be by day, with witnesses, clear and public. You imagine a couple stepping into moonlight, breath misting in cold air. They clasp hands, whisper vows, think themselves wed. Days later, the priest shakes his head. Brother Clement mutters, night hides sin, marriage hides nothing. His voice is flat, certain, drowsy. Rat-face Hugo grins from the back. I know a cousin who tried to wed at night. The rooster crowed, the priest refused. The feast went on without the vows. He chuckles, the sound like gravel under boot. Miniac 3. The bans on cemeteries. Cemeteries were holy, but weddings avoided them. The myth says marriage could happen anywhere with blessing. The reality, burials and weddings must not mix. Life and death must keep distant. You picture a graveyard, earth damp, incense still clinging from funeral. A young couple stands near a cross, priest frowning. No vows among graves, he says. Brother Clement mutters, the dead need rest, not feasts. Teacup Tom polishes his cup quietly on a gravestone. Stone shines no matter where you polish. His words drift softly into mist. Maniac 4. Rules of time and place. A clerk unfolds parchment, voice steady. Rules of marriage, times and places. No weddings at night. No weddings in cemeteries. Weddings best at church doors before witnesses. Weddings in fields or taverns risk dispute. The rules feel endless, yet each is clear. Brother Clement nods slowly, murmuring them again like prayer. Fortunata yawns, muttering. Rules enough to starve joy. Maniac 5. The problem of waiting. For couples, forbidden times meant waiting. A chest prepared, a feast planned, but bells denied. Meat salted, ale brewed, linens folded, all waiting, growing stale. You picture salted pork turning sour, ale losing foam, bread molding in the chest. The house smells faintly sour, the family restless. The couple glances at each other, sighing. A gentle dilemma forms. Marry secretly now or wait months while food spoils and patience thin. Ratface Hugo smirks. I know a cousin who wed in Lent. The bishop fined him 2 hens and a goose. He laughs, certain the goose tasted better than the marriage. Maniac 6. Myth versus reality of flexibility. The myth says rules bent easily, priests turning blind eye. The reality, some priests were strict, others lenient. Records show couples fined for Lent weddings, others ignored. You imagine one village, where priest accepts coins quietly, blessing vows in secret. Another where priest refuses, sending couples away until Easter. Brother Clement mutters, law bends, but never breaks. His eyelids droop, his tone like lullaby. Maniac 7. Historical echoes. Records confirm these bans. Councils forbade weddings in holy seasons. City statutes repeated them. Chronicles note couples fined, bans delayed, feasts spoiled. Some scholars believe these restrictions reminded people that marriage was not only personal, but spiritual, bound to the rhythms of the church year. The calendar itself shaped their life. Archaeologists find little, no bones of feasts delayed, no coins of fines paid, but parchments whisper the silence of forbidden days. Maniac 8. Fortunata's memory. Fortunata pulls her shawl close. I once waited 6 months through Lent. My gown turned yellow before I wore it. My dowry chest grew mold on the linens. They called it holy patience. I called it rot. She chuckles, though her eyes glisten. Teacup Tom polishes his cup beside her. Patience polishes nothing. He sighs. The cup gleams faintly anyway. Maniac 9. A gentle dilemma. Imagine yourself in this time. The chest prepared, the feast ready, yet it is Lent. The bells forbid. Do you wait, risking spoilage, or do you whisper vows in secret, risking fine and annulment? The dilemma rests heavy but quiet. Both paths uncertain, both bound in rules of time and place. Maniac 10. Closing reflection. The candles gutter in the church, families sigh, couples glance, priests recite. Brother Clement closes his book, muttering still. Ratface Hugo grins, whispering of cousins who broke every rule. Fortunata hums softly, remembering feasts delayed. Teacup Tom polishes his cup one last time, shines steady in candlelight. The myth of weddings wherever dissolves. The reality rests in forbidden seasons, barred places, patient wait. The bells fade, the candles dim, and the church exhales into quiet. Time itself rests heavy on vows, seasons binding hearts as tightly as ring. The fire flickers softly as the night grows colder, and the village drifts again into rest. Annulments and the odd ways to end marriage. The rain falls softly on the roof of the bishop's hall. Inside, the air smells of damp wool and wax. Benches creak as families sit, whispering nervous. At the front, a clerk sharpens his quill. A couple stands before the judge, hands clasped, or perhaps deliberately apart. They are not here to wed, but to unwed. The myth says medieval marriage was indissoluble, but once bound, no one could escape. The reality, while divorce in the modern sense did not exist, annulments did, and they could unravel marriages, through curious and sometimes strange reasons. Annulment did not dissolve a marriage, it declared it had never been valid at all. You take your seat near the smell of mildew drifts from the walls. Brother Clement clears his throat, muttering canon law under his breath. Impediments, coercion, prior vows, impotence. He repeats them slowly, flat as a chant. Fortunata, the lucky one, shifts in her shawl. I escaped one husband by luck, she whispers, though luck needed parchment, and parchment needed coin. Ratface Hugo grins slyly. I know a cousin who claimed he was too young, though he had a beard already. Maniac 1. Grounds for annulment. Canon law listed clear ground. The myth says only death parted couples. The reality,
Marriages could be declared invalid if they were too closely related by blood, one had been previously betrothed, consent had been forced, one partner was too young, a prior vow of chastity bound one, impotence prevented consummation. Step by step the process unfolded, a petition filed with bishop's court, witnesses summoned, neighbors, kin, even servants, questions asked, uncomfortable and long, evidence weighed, parchments, tokens, judgment pronounced valid or void. The smell of ink and damp parchment fills the hall. The air is heavy with waiting. Maniac 2. Consanguinity. If kinship within forbidden degrees was discovered, annulment followed. Even after years of marriage, children born, households built, the knot could be untied. You imagine a couple in a small cottage, children playing with wooden toys, the hearth crackling. A neighbor whispers to priest, they are cousins. Soon a court summons arrives. Brother Clement mutters, kin forbids, even joy cannot cleanse it. His voice is slow, almost weary. Fortunata shakes her head. I knew a woman cast out after 10 years, because a priest traced her husband's uncle too close. She called it bad luck. I call it cruelty. Ratface Hugo smirks. I know a cousin who hid his cousin wife for years, still married, still grinning. If someone had once spoken I will marry you, even without consummation, it could block a future union. You sit in the hall as a woman holds a small token, a ring of bronze. She whispers, he promised me. The groom denies, but the court nods. The second marriage unravels. The air smells of rusted metal and candle smoke. The couple sighs, lives altered by a single word spoken years before. Maniac 4. Impotence. One of the strangest and most whispered grounds was impotence. If a husband could not consummate, the wife might petition annulment. The myth imagines courts ignored such private matters. The reality, they questioned them directly. Step by step the awkward process. Petition filed. Midwives or physicians summoned. Questions whispered. Evidence gathered. Sometimes even tests ordered. Though modesty veiled details. Court decides, capable or incapable. Brother Clement mutters, without consummation, no true union. His voice hums low, flat. Ratface Hugo grins. I know a cousin accused of impotence. He proved otherwise with the innkeeper's daughter. He laughs too loudly, earning glares. Maniac 5. Coercion and age. If a marriage had been forced, annulment possible. If a child too young wed, annulment followed. The myth imagines children easily married. The reality, canon law set ages, 14 for boys, 12 for girls. Below this, vows were void. You imagine a girl of 10, shawl slipping, eyes wide. Her guardian arranges marriage, but years later she appeals. The court agrees. The air smells faintly of damp straw, the chamber cold. Fortunata whispers, I was betrothed at 12, wed at 14. They called it normal. I called it silent.
Mini-arc 6. Rules of annulment. Brother Clement reads from parchment, voice slow and even. Rules of annulment. Prior vow of chastity forbids. Impotence prevents marriage. Annulment declares marriage never was. His words echo in the hall. Flat, almost soothing. Teacup Tom polishes his cup quietly, nodding. Annulment polishes mistakes until they shine like they never happened. Mini-arc 7. The cost of freedom. Annulment was costly. Fees to bishop. Payments to clerks. Bribes to officials. The myth imagines easy justice. The reality, only those with coin could afford. You picture a widow pawning her silver spoon to pay fees, a father selling a goat, a man borrowing coin to petition annulment. The hall smells of sweat and fear. Coin clinking as clerk counts. Fortunata shrugs. I paid with half my dowry to leave a husband. They called me lucky. I called it debt. Mini-arc 8. Historical echoes. Records brim with annulment cases. Rolls list kin discovered. Promises recalled. Coercion confessed. Letters describe women pleading, men resisting. Chronicles mock lords who annulled for convenience. Some scholars believe annulments were both justice and loophole, allowing escape, yet favoring wealth. Archaeologists find fragments, broken rings, seals, parchments torn, the echoes of marriages erased. Mini-arc 9. A gentle dilemma. You imagine yourself in such a hall. The air smells of wax, damp stone. A petition lies before you. Do you declare your marriage void, freeing yourself, or endure, fearing scandal, fearing cost? The dilemma rests heavy, but quiet. Either choice reshapes life, yet both remain uncertain. Mini-arc 10. Closing reflection. The candles burn low in the bishop's hall. Families sigh, Couples weep or smile faintly. Brother Clement closes his book, muttering still. Fortunato adjusts her shawl, remembering her own escape. Rat-face Hugo grins, ready to tell another cousin's tale. Teacup Tom polishes until his cup gleams in candlelight. The myth of marriage indissoluble dissolves. The reality rests in annulments. Grounds strange and wide. Courts heavy with whispers and parchments. The rain falls steady. The ink dries slow, and the hall exhales into quiet. Promises unmade linger like smoke, faint yet binding. The fire hums low as the night grows colder, and the village drifts again into rest. Strange customs at the bed and table. The bells have stopped. The feast has ended. Torches sputter in the courtyard, their smoke curling against damp stone. Inside, the hall smells of spilled ale, roasted meat now cold, and the faint sweetness of crushed herbs underfoot. The guests are sleepy, yet not ready to leave. Something remains. The bedding of the couple, the last strange ritual of the day. The myth says marriage was private after vows, husband and wife left to themselves. The reality in many parts of medieval Europe, customs made the first night public, or at least partly witnessed. Songs, jokes, laughter and sometimes mockery accompanied the couple from table to bed. You step into the hall, the benches creak under weight of tired guests. Brother Clement mutters prayers, his eyelids heavy, his tone steady as candlelight. Fortunata, the lucky one, adjusts her shawl, whispering, feasts fill the belly, but bedding fills the gossip. Rat-face Hugo leans close, grins sly. I know a cousin who slept less at his bedding than his neighbors did. Teacup Tom polishes his cup one last time as though shine still matters even as the hall grows dark. Mini Arc 1. The bedding procession. Step by step the bedding unfolds. Guests rise from benches, voices buzzing low. The bride led from hall to chamber, women at her side. The groom followed, men laughing, jostling, sheets lifted, bed inspected, candles held high. Couple tucked in, blessings muttered, jokes made, sometimes even songs sung. The chamber smells of linen, slightly damp, dried by hearth. A jug of ale rests on the table, half drained. Guests linger, eyes curious before at last withdrawing. The myth imagines silence. The reality, laughter and mockery filled the chamber before leaving. Mini Arc 2. Witnesses and proof. Some places required witnesses to the bedding. The myth says consummation was always private. The reality, proof mattered, especially for noble union. You imagine 2 men and 2 women standing by the door, cloaks wrapped tight, watching awkwardly as the couple lay side by side. Their task not desire but proof. If challenged later, they could swear the bedding happened. Brother Clement mutters, without proof inheritance fault. His voice is flat, like the slow toll of a bell. Fortunata shakes her head. I was watched once, I kept my shawl tighter than any vow. She chuckles, though her eyes dim at memory. Mini Arc 3. The Charivari. Sometimes if neighbors disapproved of the union, they staged a charivari, a noisy mockery outside the house. Pots banged, horns blown, voices jeering. You hear it in the night, the clang of pans, the bray of horns, the smell of smoke from torches. A couple hides beneath covers as neighbors jeer. Rat-face Hugo laughs loudest. I know a cousin whose charivari lasted 3 nights. He slept less than his mule. The myth imagines communities silent. The reality, marriage was everyone's affair, and noise was judgment. Mini Arc 4. Rules of the table. Before bedding, the feast carried its own customs. A clerk reads from parchment, voice steady. Rules of the wedding table. Bride sits at high seat, groom beside. First slice of bread offered by host. Ale poured 3 times, never full. Jugs passed clockwise only. Meat served before fish, unless it is Friday. Salt passed hand to hand, never spilled. Feast ends before bedding begins. The table smells of grease. Breadcrumbs scattered. Cups clink faintly. Teacup Tom polishes his mug with care. Rules polish a feast as well as cups, he sighs. Mini Arc 5. Myth versus reality of feasting. The myth imagines wedding feasts, rich and endless. The reality, many were modest. Thin ale and bread stretched. Only nobles held banquets of day. Villagers often scraped together what they could. You picture a table with bread, cheese, onions, small ale. Guests chew slowly, filling silence with words rather than food. Outside, frost creeps across windows. Fortunata mutters, at my first wedding they served beans. At my second, cabbage. At my third, Nothing at all. She laughed softly, calling herself lucky anyway. Mini Arc 6. The problem of inheritance. Customs around bedding and proof mattered most for heirs. If union challenged, property disputed, proof of consummation vital. Witnesses, sheets, midwives, strange methods all used. You imagine a midwife lifting linen at dawn, shaking her head or nodding faintly. The room smells of smoke, sweat, damp straw. The future of land depends on cloth. Brother Clement mutters, proof secures property more than love. His voice is steady, flat, soothing in its repetition. Mini Arc 7. Historical echoes. Records confirm these customs. Chronicles describe bedding songs, mocking verses. City ordinances mention charivari fines. Court rolls note witnesses swearing bedding occurred. Some scholars believe bedding rituals reminded communities that marriage was not private contract but public concern. The bed belonged partly to neighbors, to inheritance, to lot. Archaeologists find fragments, broken jugs, scorched pans from charivari, sheets preserved in chronicles, not in earth. Mini Arc 8. A gentle dilemma. You imagine yourself in that chamber. The bed smells faintly of straw and damp linen. Guests laugh outside. Do you draw the covers and accept witnesses, securing proof, or do you refuse, risking gossip, risking future dispute? The dilemma rests soft but heavy. Both paths carry weight beyond the bed. Mini Arc 9. Rat-face Hugo's tale. Hugo grins, leaning close. I know a cousin who hid under the bed during his own charivari. When neighbors burst in, they found only his boots. He never lived it down. He laughs, the sound echoing like spoons in a pot. Fortunata shakes her head, shawl tight. Every cousin of yours seems unlucky, yet you grin as if it were fortune. Mini Arc 10. Closing reflection. The feast has ended. The bed is filled. The neighbors return to their cottages. The air smells of ashes and cooling bread. Brother Clement closes his book, muttering one last rule. Teacup Tom polishes his cup even in the dark. Shine, catching embers. Fortunata hums softly, remembering her own bedding feasts. Rat-face Hugo grins, already planning the next charivari tale. The myth of silent, private weddings dissolves. The reality rests in feasts, thin or rich, bedding public or mocked, bedsheets as proof, neighbors as witnesses. The torches die, the embers glow, and the hall exhales into quiet. The bed creaks softly, as the village drifts again into uneasy sleep. Second marriages, widowhood and clerical suspicion. The bells toll slowly, not for a wedding but for a funeral. The churchyard is damp, earth freshly turned. The smell of wet soil and incense hangs in the air. A widow stands beside the grave, shawl heavy on her shoulders, eyes lowered. The priest mutters prayers, his voice steady as the drizzle falling. The myth says widows were free after their husbands died, free to live as they pleased. The reality, suspicion followed them. The church frowned on second marriages, even if it permitted them. Neighbors whispered of lust, of greed, of impatience. Some widows chose independence, others remarried for survival. Their choices weighed and judged at every turn. You step into her cottage weeks later. The hearth burns faint, its smoke sharp in the air. The chest of dowry sits unopened, a reminder of bargains past. On the shelf rests a parchment, ink drying slowly. A dower claim, the widow's right to property. Fortunata, the lucky one, sits nearby, her shawl pulled close, her eyes glinting with irony. Second marriages taste like reheated stew, she whispers. Not as fine as fresh, but warmer than none. Mini Arc 1. Widow's dower. When a husband died, the widow claimed her dower, land or property promised at marriage. The myth imagines widows helpless. The reality, dower gave strength, though often contested. Step by step the process unfolds. Widow petitions court for her dower. Neighbors summoned to testify what was promised. Clerk reads contract, ink smudged, wax broken, lands measured, goods tallied. Widow receives or is denied her right. The room smells of ink and damp wool as the clerk scratches line. The widow waits, hands folded, shawl drawn tight. Brother Clement mutters from the corner, dower is shield, but a shield made of parchment. His tone is flat, certain, almost soothing. Mini Arc 2. Clerical suspicion. The church permitted remarriage, but grudgingly. Priests praised widows who remained chaste, living in quiet prayer. Those who remarried too quickly earned sermons sharp as frost. You picture a pulpit. The air smells of wax and cold stone. The priest's voice echoes, better to remain as one, for the second bed is shadow of the first. The widow lowers her head. Neighbors murmur. Fortunata chuckles.
They called me shameless, I called it survival. Miniarch 3, Myth versus Reality of Choice. The myth paints widows free to choose their next husband. The reality, pressure heavy from families, lords, guardians. A widow with land was prized to be remarried quickly, her property shifting to another household. You imagine a widow standing in her cottage, chest still unopened, 2 suitors wait at her door, one chosen by her family, another by her lord. She sighs, shawl slipping from her shoulder. The air smells of damp earth, her hearth smoke weak. Rat-face Hugo grins. I know a cousin who married widow after widow. They called him thrifty, he called it love. He laughs, sound like boots on gravel. Miniarch 4, The Rules of Remarriage. Brother Clement unfolds parchment, his voice steady. Rules of widowhood and second marriage. Widow may claim dower before new vows. Second marriage is permitted, but delayed for mourning. Chastity praised, lust condemned. Guardians may press widows with land to remarry. Priests frown, but courts permit. Children from first marriage complicate inheritance. Too many marriages invite suspicion. Teacup Tom polishes his cup quietly at the hearth. Second polish never shines as first, he murmurs. Still, the mug gleams faintly. Miniarch 5, Mourning Customs. Widows expected to mourn, to wear black or grey, to sit in silence. The myth says mourning was the reality, sometimes it stretched for years, though pressure to remarry gnawed quickly. You picture her in black gown, shawl heavy, hair covered. The cottage smells of ashes and stale bread. Days slow, neighbors whisper, some pity, some scorn. Fortunata mutters, I wore mourning thrice. Once I wept, twice I only sighed. Miniarch 6, Gentle Dilemma. The widow faces choice, remain independent, clinging to dower, or remarry for security. The dilemma is soft but heavy. Alone she risks poverty, married again she risks scorn, losing freedom. Brother Clement mutters, better widowed than lustful. Rat-face Hugo grins, better lustful than hungry. Fortunata shakes her head, better lucky than either. Miniarch 7, Children and Inheritance. Children complicated, widow, property split, dower weighed, stepfathers mistrusted. The myth imagines smooth transitions. The reality, disputes thickened like smoke. You imagine a widow at court, children beside her. A suitor claims her land, neighbors testify. The clerk sighs as quill scratch. The smell of wax and damp parchment hangs heavy. Miniarch 8, Historical Echoes. Records brim with widows petitioning for dower, resisting pressure to remarry, or dragged into second vows. Letters describe priests warning against haste. Chronicles mock widows who married oft. Some scholars believe widowhood was both moment of power and vulnerability, independence rare for women, yet suspicion constant. Archaeologists find tokens, rings worn thin, keys to dowry chests, seals of remarriage, each faint echo of choices. Miniarch 9, Rat-face Hugo's Tale. Hugo leans close, grinning. I know a cousin who married thrice, each time a widow. He inherited 3 cows, 2 goats, and 1 cottage. They called him fortunate, I called him greedy. He chuckles, shaking his head. Brother Clement sighs. Greed polishes nothing. His eyelids droop, his voice slow as dripping water. Miniarch 10, Closing Reflection. The widow sits by her hearth, chest unopened. Neighbors whisper, priest frowns, suitors wait. She sips ale slowly, breath misting in cold. Fortunata hums softly, remembering her own second vows. Rat-face Hugo grins, another cousin's tale ready. Teacup Tom polishes his cup, shine steady in glow. Brother Clement mutters still, laws heavy as sleep. The myth of widows free and unjudged dissolve. The reality rests in dowers claimed, remarriages pressed, suspicions whispered. Second unions carried weight, never silence. The bell tolls once, the hearth smoulders, and the cottage exhales into quiet. Widowhood lingers like smoke, second vows waiting in shadow. The fire flickers gently as the night grows colder, and the village drifts again into rest. Love, myth, and the long aftertaste of rules. The night is still, the village lies quiet under a pale moon. Smoke drifts faintly from chimneys, its smell sharp in the cold. A dog barks once, then silence returns. Inside a cottage the hearth glows low, the table is worn, its wood scarred by years of use. Around it sit familiar faces, Brother Clement with his book of canon law, Fortunata the lucky one, with her shawl pulled close, Rat-face Hugo grinning with yet another cousin's tale, and Teacup Tom polishing his cup until it gleams in firelight. The myth says medieval marriage was about love, simple and pure, with vows spoken, feasts enjoyed, and families formed. The reality, marriage was shaped by rules, bargains, suspicions and customs strange. Love might arrive later or not at all. Property, dower, kinship, calendar, and law weighed heavier. You sit with them now, hearing the faint creak of the rafters, smelling the faint must of wool and smoke. The air is thick with memory, as though every vow ever spoken lingers in this room. Miniac 1. The myths remembered. You recall them one by one. The myth that love alone made marriage. The reality, contracts and kinship bound tighter. The myth that water and bread were enough. The reality, dowries and dower rights decided future. The myth that weddings could happen anywhere, anytime. The reality, forbidden seasons stretched long, forbidden places narrowed choice. The myth that once bound, marriages could never end. The reality, annulments, unknotted vows with parchment and coin. The myth that widows were free. The reality, suspicion shadowed every second vow. Fortunata sighs. Myth sounds sweeter than rules, but sweetness fades, while rules remain. Brother Clement nods, muttering, consent, kinship, impediments, bans. His voice is steady, flat, like rain on stone. Miniac 2. The rules repeated. Brother Clement unfolds parchment one last time. His voice drones, slow and soothing. Rules of marriage, gathered and remembered. Consent makes union. Kinship forbids. Spiritual ties weigh as blood. Promises spoken bind, even in jest. Bans must be read, unless secret vows are spoken. No weddings in Lent or Advent. No weddings at night or in cemeteries. Dowry promised, dower secured. Widow may claim, but second vows judged. Annulment unravels when impediments found. His words hum through the room, like the low toll of a bell. Teacup Tom polishes his cup with slow care. Rules polish poorly, but they polish still. You recall them now. Should you whisper vows in the field, or wait for ceremony? Should you marry your cousin quietly, or risk annulment? Should you accept your father's bargain, or resist in silence? Should you demand more dowry, or settle for less? Should you wait through Lent, or wed in secret? Should you seek annulment, or endure? Should you accept witnesses at your bedding, or refuse and risk gossip? Should you remain widowed, or remarry for survival? Each dilemma soft, never thunderous, but heavy, all the same. Fortunata whispers, every choice is hunger or silence. Ratface Hugo grins, or goose or cow. Brother Clement mutters, or sin or penance. Miniac 4. The economics of vows. The hearth crackles faintly. You picture all the chests, parchments, coins, fields and linens, that carried marriage forward. The myth of affection pales before the reality of economy. You imagine dowry chests creaking open, candlesticks gleaming, linens folded, coin count. You imagine dower promises, written in ink, sealed with wax. You imagine widows clutching those parchments, suitors arguing over them, courts weighing them slowly. The air smells of old parchment, faintly sweet with beeswax, faintly sour with mildew. Teacup Tom holds his cup steady. Even vows rust without coin, he murmurs. Miniac 5. Customs of bed and table. You recall feasts thin and rich, bread shared, ale poured. You recall bedding ceremonies, noisy with laughter, sheets inspected, witnesses awkward. The myth of privacy fed. The reality, marriage was public, tables and beds alike bound by rules. You hear echoes, laughter, banging of pots in charivari, the creak of bed under many eyes, the hum of songs mocking yet binding. Ratface Hugo grin. I know a cousin whose bedding feast ended with neighbors asleep on his floor. He never knew who was married, him or them. Miniac 6. Historical echoes. Records hold it all. City accounts, parish registers, court rolls, chronicle. They whisper of kinship forbidden, dowries bargained, bans read, annulments filed, widows judged. Some scholars believe marriage in medieval Europe was less about affection than about weaving property, kinship, and faith into one net. The rules, strange and heavy, gave order where chaos might reign. Archaeologists find fragments, bronze rings, sealed parchments, broken cups, not love itself but the tools that bound it. Miniac 7. The final gathering. The fire burns, low, the characters sit quiet. Brother Clement mutters rules, softer now, his eyes half closed. Fortunata pulls her shawl close, remembering each marriage survived. Ratface Hugo grins, another cousin's tale forming on his lips. Teacup Tom polishes his cup until it reflects the fire itself. You sit with them, listening. The room smells of smoke and wool. The walls creak faintly in wind. Myths and realities blur. Rules drift like smoke. Marriage in medieval Europe lingers. Strange, heavy, but steady. Closing reflection. The myth of simple romantic love fades. The reality remains. Marriage was contract, ritual, suspicion, survival. Yet within rules, affection sometimes grew. Within bargains, laughter sometimes sparked. Within suspicion, companionship sometimes formed. Brother Clement's mutter fades to silence. Fortunata hums softly, a tune from long ago. Ratface Hugo grins, one last time, though no words follow. Teacup Tom sets down his polished cup, satisfied at last. The fire flickers low, the embers glow faintly, and the cottage exhales into stillness. Rules rest like ashes, myths drift like smoke, and the night deepens into quiet. The coals sigh softly as the frost gathers outside, and the village drifts once more into rest.